Have you ever lost the only person who made you feel loved and suddenly realized the world is not as warm as you thought it was? This is the story of a little girl called Lucy, a little girl who lost love before she ever really got to understand what love was all about. In the 1960s, in the eastern part of a Nigerian village, there lived a girl called Lucy. Lucy lived with her family in the little village. She was the last born of 5 children, and just like the biblical Joseph, she was also greatly pampered by her father. Lucy was always known as the daddy's girl, the youngest, the last, the one he seemed to save all of his love for. Every morning, she would wake up to the smell of freshly cooked food, the soft rustle of her father's footsteps in the kitchen, preparing her special food, and the warm smile that made her feel like the most important person in the world. Even when the village felt harsh and indifferent, she had a bubble of love surrounding her. She would ask her father, "Father, can I have 3 oranges instead of 1?" And her father would reply indulgently, "3, you say? Just for you, my dear. Take them all and enjoy." And she would feel like the luckiest child in the world. But sometimes, good things don't last forever. One day, a mysterious sickness suddenly came upon Lucy's father, and her perfect little world began to crumble. Terrified, she asked her father, "Father, what is wrong with you?" Her father looked at her tiredly and managed a little smile. "Don't worry, my daughter," he said weakly. "I will be fine." However, he did not get better. From her bedroom at night, she would hear her father's agonizing coughs shaking the walls of their small home, while her mother and the village medicine man would tend to him. Lucy watched as her father's warm smile started fading. His happy attitude became replaced with helplessness. His voice became full of tired grimaces and quiet groans. She stayed by his side, holding his hands, whispering little jokes to make him smile. But she could see it in his eyes. He was leaving her, and in her little mind, she knew there was nothing she could do about it. Days passed, weeks passed, and the treatments continued, but her father didn't get better. And at that point, everyone knew it was only a matter of time. On the day her father eventually passed, the sky was grey, and Lucy didn't know how to breathe. Her world blurred. Family members moved around her like ghosts, talking in hushed voices. Lucy was called into the room and asked to keep calling his name, hoping, perhaps, as his favorite child, his spirit would hear her voice and return to his body. But that never happened, and Lucy knew then that her father had permanently left her. However, young Lucy, refusing to believe, kept calling his name, crying and crying until she was led out by relatives. Lucy was devastated that the only man she had ever truly loved and who had loved her back unconditionally had been taken from her. Who would love her now? Young Lucy wondered. However, in the days and weeks leading to the burial, it seemed like everything was going to be okay. Her family members pampered her, relatives visited. "Are you eating well, my child?" they would ask, adjusting her pillows, fussing over her like she was fragile china. She felt it, the love, the attention, and she wanted to hold on to it forever. Even if it was heavy with sorrow, even in their care, she felt the weight of absence. But she still felt happy because everyone was paying attention to her. She felt everything would eventually be okay. Then suddenly, just as quickly as it had come, the love disappeared. On the morning after the father's burial, Lucy woke up. The sun was bright, but no one stirred. No soft footsteps, no gentle voices, no one asking what she would eat or drink. Lucy called out, but the house was empty. She went to the kitchen, no one meal waiting. No one asked if she had eaten. No one laughed with her, or held her hand, or told her everything was going to be okay. Days went by, each one colder than the last. The care, the love, had just been borrowed. Borrowed for a moment because her father had died. But now the world returned to itself, and Lucy was left to the quiet aftermath. Then anger rose in her chest. Not just at the world, but at the unfairness of life. How could everyone move on so quickly? How could they act like the love was only for a season, only when it suited them? Her father, the only one who had truly loved her, was gone, and now she was alone, and no one cared. Lucy would lie in bed at night, staring at the dark ceiling, remembering her father's laughters, the stories he told, the hands he had held while guiding her, and she would cry into the pillow and say, "Why did you leave me, father?" Time passed slowly, and Lucy became filled with bitterness and quiet resentment.
Go and sweep the veranda.
I will not sweep the veranda.
Lucy!
She became stubborn, angry, and willful, lashing out at her mother and siblings, becoming disobedient, and picking fights in the village. She had never really been enrolled in school, so she spent her time causing trouble in the village, causing heartache to her mother, provoking her elder ones to always scold her, and sometimes even hit her. Lucy became a menace, a local village champion at the young age of age 10. This continued for 2 years, and her mother didn't know what else to do about her. All she could do was to keep asking relatives to talk to her. Fast forward 2 years later, when Lucy turned 13, something suddenly shifted. One Sunday morning, while passing by the village chapel, the only chapel in the village, the one she usually passed by every other Sunday, Lucy suddenly stopped, as if confused as to why she had stopped. And then slowly, her feet started moving her, and she stepped into the church. At first, it was out of curiosity and confusion, but soon, the hymns, the soft prayers, the light filtering in from the stained glasses, it whispered to her heart. Something stirred, a tiny crack in the wall she had built around herself for years, and her frozen heart began to thaw. That day, Lucy felt convicted and wept in the little chapel, and from that moment she decided to turn aside from her terrible ways. As the days and weeks went by, it became evident to everyone that Lucy had gradually become a different person. She started helping around the house, listening to her mother and her elder ones, going to the farm. She had become a happy girl again. She started going to church, growing in faith, and even joined the choir. And life continued. However, Lucy was still cautious around people, afraid to believe in people again in case they would abandon her, just like her relatives and her family did after her father passed. She was careful not to let anyone close, not to expect anything from the world, but still she prayed quietly and in her room at night and hoped that maybe, just maybe, one day she would be able to find that kind of unconditional love again. And then one day, something happened that eventually changed her life completely for the better. Lucy's grandfather's old friend came to Lucy's family and spoke to his friend, telling him that his son, a young man working in Port Harcourt, was looking for a wife.
How are you, my friend? I am well. My son that works in Port Harcourt wants to get married.
Now, you must know that in the early 60s and 70s, any young man who lived in Port Harcourt was already considered a rich man. And Samuel, his son, not only lived in Port Harcourt, he also worked in an oil company then. So in all ramifications, he was a very rich man. And naturally, all the mothers in the village wanted their daughters to marry him. Meanwhile, Lucy's grandfather came to find her in the farm where she was taking yams and cassava and told her about the proposal.
There is someone who wants to marry you.
Really, who?
It is my friend's son that lives in Port Harcourt. We will go and see them on the next market day.
One of the things he told her was that the family were church people, and since she also liked church, she would be able to worship freely. At first, Lucy was skeptical. Who would want someone like me? She whispered to herself. The bitterness of years whispered back to her. No one. You're too small, too quiet, too much hurt inside, too much pain and grief inside. No one would want you. You're too uneducated, a nobody. But Lucy dared to hope. She dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could experience a love that would never leave her again. She would take the chance. After all, what was the worst that could happen? So when her grandfather told her to follow him to his friend's house in a nearby village, she agreed. And the moment Samuel, the son of her grandfather's friend, saw her, everything fell in place. It was love at first sight. Although her husband-to-be Samuel had earlier told his father that he wanted to marry a tall, fair, slender lady that had lots of hair like his own mother did, he instantly fell in love with Lucy, who was the opposite of what he wanted. Lucy was short, dark, and had really scanty hair, especially she had no edges. But all those qualities he wanted flew out of his head the moment he saw the beautiful and youthful chocolate-colored Lucy in person. Love went beyond her physical attributes and pulled him to her. There were no games, no hesitation. From across the room, they quietly looked at each other, and at that moment, Lucy felt peace like she had not felt in a very long time. Samuel excused both of them from the room and walked outside with her.
Hello, my name is Samuel. What is your name?
My name is Lucy.
Samuel smiled. She looked at him, smiled back, and from that day, their hearts cleaved together. Lucy would later say that she would always remember the first time Samuel smiled at her. It was gentle but certain, like the world had been waiting to set itself right. And in that instant, all of the walls, all the anger, the grief began to crumble. For the first time in years, Lucy felt what her father's love had once promised, a love that was constant, real, transformative, not borrowed, not temporary. It was hers. A few months later, Lucy married Samuel traditionally and moved to Port Harcourt. No longer the little girl who had cried after her father's burial when no one showed her love anymore. No longer the adolescent who had grown bitter and resentful at the world. No longer the young teenager who had staked yams and cassava in the farm. Lucy would now and forever be known as the wife of a rich man in her village and beyond. Of course, the other maidens in the village were envious of her and wished the young, rich and handsome Samuel had picked them to go to Port Harcourt instead of her. But fate has smiled on Lucy. And from that moment, life opened up. After leaving the village, she stepped into a future she had never imagined. A few months after arriving in Port Harcourt, Lucy and Samuel had their white wedding. It was a beautiful affair. Dignitaries and important personalities, including friends, family and neighbors, graced the occasion. And 9 months later, Lucy gave birth to their first child, a beautiful baby girl they would call Chetachi. The union would later be blessed with 5 more children, 2 girls and 3 boys. And with each passing day, any remaining form of cautiousness that was still left within Lucy melted gradually, replaced by a joy and peace that was even better than what she had felt when her father was alive. And one beautiful day, about 15 years later, Lucy pondered on how far her life had come and how much blessings she had enjoyed. And then she smiled. Now she knew she had everything she had never even prayed for: a loving husband, a good home, and her beautiful children. Then Lucy smiled, looked up at the sky, and said a silent thank you. And that, my friends, is one of the stories my father told me about how love found its way through loss, through pain, through gentle choices, and hearts that cleave together. A story that still warms my heart up on every Valentine's Day. You see, Lucy's story, though marked by loss and heartache, became proof of one truth: love can find you anywhere, even when the world has turned away. True love can lift you, transform you, and this reminds us that our hearts, no matter how hot it had been, can always be whole again. Until next time on Stories My Father Told Me, bye and happy Valentine's Day.